Like Eastern Ontario, agriculture and farm revitalization issues were a top 10 issue. In both areas, we had infrastructure, as in broadband, as in your roads, becoming an issue that required attention in order to promote the vitality of the rural regions. We also saw in our discussions across the province a focus on the need for greater economic diversification of rural communities in order to ensure that they would survive some of the closures that we heard about at the start of the day. Small business support is critical. Efficient cooperative government was something in the top 10 list of priorities for economic development in both areas. I'm just highlighting some key differences here. I mentioned that we seem to have a greater focus or need for skills training in the Eastern Ontario region, with a greater focus for farm revitalization in the Southwestern Ontario issue. Transportation planning and the access to public transportation is a top 10 issue all across Southern Ontario. Now, we ask individuals, all right, these are your burning issues, but many of them you know how to handle. You have all the information you need, you just need more time, more money. You know, it's not a question of knowing what to do. It's a question of resources or something else. But then some of these issues are issues that you feel limited by because of knowledge. You don't have state-of-the-art information or techniques. You don't know what best practice is. You don't know really how to proceed. And we call those knowledge needs. Those are the areas that we asked the individuals in the discovery workshops, and there were then a total of 23 of these that have been held in the last year and a half across Southern Ontario. We asked the attendees to say, all right, if we can go and bring to you new knowledge, what would be the top questions? What are your top research questions? If teams of faculty and students can go into your communities. Now, there was quite a bit of difference in Eastern Ontario versus Southwestern Ontario, although there were some commonalities. So, comparative advantage, which is the focus for today. You know, later on we'll be focusing at how we can improve the competitiveness of rural regions. That was certainly very, very high in Eastern Ontario, but not in the top 10 list on Southwestern Ontario. We were looking within Eastern Ontario communities about how to create niche strategies. So, for instance, Pella, the Prince Edward and Lennox-Arlington counties, they have been able to create a reputation for their wines, for their fine foods, their tourism destination. It's a big focus in Eastern Ontario. Southwestern Ontario, however, was again asking us for information about how to revitalize their farms. Both Eastern and Southwestern Ontario wanted more information about sustainable economic development and ways in which we could attract new labor, so increased immigration to rural communities in Eastern and Southwestern Ontario. Environment and land use was a big issue in Southwestern Ontario, but it did not come up in the top 10 areas where academics were needed in the Eastern Ontario communities we visited. Youth retention clearly was an area where more information, best practice, insights was needed. Tourism was a top 10 issue in Eastern Ontario, although not in Southwestern Ontario. It has been an area that has such potential for rural regions in our area that we chose to highlight that today. And in the afternoon, we'll be focusing on how to promote tourism in your regions. And I'm thrilled to have with us today, too, I see representatives of Haliburton County, who I know have been really wrestling with those issues and doing some very innovative things, and they're here with us. It's a delight. So again, some of the differences in terms of what the university community could address to assist rural regions were as follows. Youth retention being critical in terms of information about what to do in Southwestern Ontario, less so in Eastern Ontario. We just have difficulty doing it, but we're struggling less with how to do it in Eastern Ontario, it would seem. labor attraction in both areas, comparative advantage and sustainable economic development being big issues, and so on. I'll just say one other thing. The creative economy last year in our showcase was ranked in our discussions. We used the decision technology that we use in the workshops. We actually used it in last year's showcase. And you told us in your discussions that of all the listed priorities, areas where we in the Academy could provide more information to you, you wanted us to focus on the creative economy. It turned out that in our visits across the region, the creative economy was a top 20 issue and not a top 10 issue when we didn't seed the discussion, when we just asked individuals to identify their information needs. And it could well be that it's not clothed as or labeled the creative economy. So we nonetheless responded, and many of you know that we've just completed a series of creative economy seminars that have been very, very well attended. And if you're interested in that and you're not yet video conferenced in or you're not coming, please let either Jeff, will invite to come forward, and myself know. I'd like to introduce Jeff Dixon. Jeff is the project coordinator for the Knowledge, Impact and Society project. Jeff is the person who on a day-to-day basis runs the project. Without his tremendous support, it would not be successful. I'm very deeply grateful to Jeff. I think we have just a couple of minutes for questions, but I would like at this point in time just to ask you to pose any questions that you have. We'll keep the questions perhaps just to one or two at this time. And Jeff and I will both respond. Yes, please.
The technology for the discovery sessions, does that belong to the Monison Center or to someone else?
Okay, the question is, to whom does the technology belong? The technology is actually owned by the Queen's Executive Decision Centre. Eric Lockhart is the on-the-ground manager of that facility. Brent Gallup, who was here earlier today, he actually is the director of that centre. They go all over the world, not just all over Eastern Ontario, they go all over the world. So if you'd like to use that technology in your community, just let us know. We'll make sure Eric knows and he will come to your community. One final question, perhaps? Yes, please. Okay, the question is, will there be more discovery workshops? The original design of the Knowledge, Impact and Society project, because of our partnership with the Eastern Ontario CFDC network, which has 15 CFDCs, involved a design for 15 workshops. With the exception of the Thousand Islands workshop, all of these workshops have been completed. We would love to come to your community, but sure, clearly can't, the budgets are limited. They have been fantastic, and we can't expand the project scope without additional funding. So what we would like to do is, if you would like us to come to your community to hear about your needs and to do some analysis of your issues and knowledge needs, we would be delighted to do that, but we'd ask you to come and speak to us. We might need you to partner with us. The actual scope of the project, we've satisfied that scope, but we'd love to continue to embrace further communities with perhaps some support from the communities now. Okay.